The Pound, Confederation College Radio.
Hello, it is Sunday, April 28th, and on this 10th anniversary of the first modern flat track roller derby bout, this episode of Derbyline is dedicated to derby origin stories of all sorts. My name is Boxcar Bethy, and you're listening live to Derbyline on camptv.ca. Hi, and welcome to the studio, guys. As I said in the intro, my name is Boxcar Bethy. I'm here in studio with Brooke Horpick and the Harlot Pimpernel.
Yes.
Both of these skaters are local to the Thunder Bay area here in town, but they have very different backgrounds. So Brooke is a rookie with Thunder Bay Roller Derby this season, having recently been drafted to the El Capones, one of the two home teams here in the league. How are things going with the new team?
Unfortunately, real life has intervened, so I'm not getting much local, home team practice time, but I'm enjoying it. It's great.
Okay. And you have your first bout coming up in a couple of weeks. Looking forward to that.
I am. I'm very excited for First Blood.
It's always very satisfying thing. And Harlot is a seasoned skater of sorts. She has a couple seasons under her belt, actually with a few different leagues. So you started with Ithaca Roller Derby,
right, and
have come here to Thunder Bay Roller Derby and have also skated in San Diego.
Yep.
And unfortunately, Harlot is actually leaving us tomorrow.
Tomorrow, 6 in the morning.
So we squoze her into this little episode of Derbyline. And what's next for the Harlot Pimpernel?
So I'm going to San Diego. So I will be rejoining SoCal Roller Derby, who I skated with last summer.
Great. They're a great league down there. Yep. So they're lucky to have you.
Yeah, I miss you.
Great. So this weekend, as I mentioned in the intro, is considered by a lot of people to be sort of the 10th anniversary of modern flat track roller derby, which is, probably the most popular kind of roller derby that there is these days. So it's kind of a big deal. Not only is it the 10th anniversary of modern flat track roller derby, but it's also the 6th anniversary of the Beast of the East tournament, which takes place in Montreal every year. Thunder Bay played in it last year.
We went there last year. It was really fun.
That's correct. And to talk a little bit about that tournament, the history of it, and some other Canadian derby firsts, I believe we have Single Malt Scott on the line.
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, Scott.
How's it going?
Great. How are you doing?
I'm very excited.
Wonderful. Well, welcome to Derbyline. We're here in studio also with Brooke and Harlot, so they might be jumping in a little bit.
Hey.
So you were you were at the tournament a little bit this weekend?
Yep, I got to announce a couple of bouts on Saturday morning.
Okay, great.
Oh, cool.
Who did you get to see play?
I got to announce the Contrabanditas and the Vicious Dishes. I got to see the FDR game, Les Filles du Roi. I was there for 4 or 5 hours, so I saw most of the teams play. I saw the two Quebec teams play.
Right. Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, the Rouge and Gore is a new team from Quebec, so they were there and they did pretty well.
Oh, that's
Won
great.
a couple games.
Yeah, I know you have other responsibilities like new human life and stuff to take care of. So I guess you couldn't be
3 weeks my son was born. So.
Oh, that's so wonderful.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So how was the atmosphere in the Beast this weekend compared to some of the past years?
Really, really good.
That's great.
I've been there on Saturday morning a lot because historically Patrick doesn't like to get up that early. So I've announced bouts there in my pajamas.
Okay. I noticed this year actually the word historically is really being applied to the Beast of the East a lot more than it has been. So I guess now it's official. We can call it a historic
It's old enough
tournament.
now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone there is old enough now.
Exactly.
We've matured.
So have you been at every Beast of the East tournament thus far?
Yep. My first experience seeing live roller derby was the first Beast of the East.
Oh, great.
And that was what got me hooked and wanted me to get involved with roller derby.
Right.
And I've been to all of them since.
Oh, that's great. And what are some of the biggest changes you've seen in the tournament over the last 6 years?
Well, I mean, the rules are all different now.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
What I've liked and what I've seen is what I've really liked about the whole mission of the Beast of the East is that it started off in Montreal was pretty dominant in those first couple of years, with Hamilton being very strong in that first year. And the idea of taking Eastern Canadian roller derby and really getting everyone involved and everyone competitive and kind of bring everyone up to the level of competitive play has really come through, especially in the last 3 years where we've seen 2 times teams from Rideau Valley and once from Tri-City win the tournament. So that's super exciting, and all these new teams keep coming in and playing, and more people doing roller derby, being involved with roller derby.
Right. Yeah, and even for a long time, Toronto kind of struggled at the Beast of the East. They had a lot of home teams. They would send 6 different home teams kind of to the tournament, and they would all maybe lose in the first or second round. And I mean, now Toronto is a huge presence at Beast of the East, not only with the home teams, but I mean, talking about the Friday night bout between Toronto and Montreal. I mean, Toronto has typically not done that well against the Skids, and the CN Power have really stepped up their game. So it's great to see Eastern Canadian roller derby all kind of moving forward and evening out a little bit.
Yeah. Great bout on Friday.
Yeah. Were you at the bout on Friday as well?
I was at home with the baby watching it online.
Okay, but you got to see it online. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was really impressed with Toronto's play and have been kind of following them a little bit this whole sort of preseason. They've really been going at it and just improving every time. It's really great to see. So, but you have been around Montreal roller derby long enough to see, I guess, several sort of Canadian firsts. What kind of Canadian roller derby firsts have you seen happen over the time you've been with Montreal?
Yeah, I started in 2008, so very early, I guess, with Montreal. I was at the first WFTDA sanctioned bout between an American team and a non-American team in 2009. So that was when Montreal went down to Harrisburg. And I was at the first WFTDA bout that was not in the United States when Montreal played Hamilton. And yeah, I went to the first time that Montreal went to the regionals, which was the first time a non-American team was in a regional tournament for the WFTDA.
Oh, okay.
So lots of cool Canadian firsts I got to be a little tiny part of.
Yeah, that's great.
Little badges for me.
And what, which of those would you say felt the biggest, or do you feel has kind of had the biggest sort of driving impact on this sort of push forward for Eastern Canadian roller derby? Was there any one of those things that kind of felt momentous, or was it just kind of a collective moving forward that's kind of taken place?
The first 2 were cool, but I think I was the only one who was really going, "Oh, this is a first. Oh, this is the first time. This is important." Even I think the skaters were really focused on the game and like how they were going to do, and not so much the history. But I'm kind of a sports nerd, anyways, so I like the idea of tracking and the stats and the firsts and the record books and all of that.
Right.
Momentous, the regional tournament in White Plains, where Montreal showed up and had kind of been the party team, the team that has the best after parties and does the cool dance moves at UCE or UCDX now.
Right.
But when they showed up there and they started winning games, and everyone kind of was like, "Oh wait, no, we have to
try.
We have to play
Yeah.
against these guys." That was pretty cool. That was pretty impressive, and everyone's trying to deal with Montreal now rather than just enjoy having them there.
Right, exactly. Not only are they fun to be around, but
Yeah. Well, and also because I work with Montreal, I'm kind of a Montreal fanboy.
right. Yeah.
So it's hard not to cheer for them when you're hanging out with them and you're traveling with them and you're
Yeah, of
watching
course.
them skate all the time.
Yeah.
But I'm also a big fan of roller derby in Canada as well. I do try to follow all the other leagues and their progress and how they're doing and all of that.
And I mean, I guess that's something of a bit of a story in itself. Sort of the transition from announcers, being somebody like I remember picking up announcers back in the day from the day of. We're like, oh great, we got somebody to announce our bout. But I mean, now, you travel with the team quite often. I know Patrick often does as well.
Yep.
And I mean, you guys both belong to the Announcers Association, right? So
Yeah, AFTDA.
right. And what has that transition been like from sort of a casual doing a favor for a friend style announcing to the sort of recognized thing that it is today?
It's weird. It's different from league to league.
Okay.
Talking about that Harrisburg one, the announcer I worked with there was like, "How much are you getting paid for this. And I was like,
You're
what?
like, that's an option?
Yeah, no, she was billing the league.
This is a job?
Yeah, she was getting paychecks from them that were part of bout production costs.
Right.
Wow.
But at the same time, she worked for them. Right? She wasn't like part of the league or, super social with them. And then the other end of the scale, there are announcers who are almost completely outside of their league and who travel everywhere on their own and pay all their travel costs and look for a place to sleep when they get to a town. And that also, for me, was kind of like, okay.
Right.
My league is very good. They take me on as one of their own as a league member, and they don't pay me, but they'll give me a bed to sleep in whenever I'm on the road. So that's cool. In terms of organization for announcers used to kind of play it really fast and loose. Talk loud, get the crowd pumped, drink some beers, get paid in beers.
Right. More color commentary than play-by-play.
Yeah, more like a ringmaster than anything sports related.
Right, yeah.
But again, I was always kind of a sports fan, so I was always super into that. Like,
Yeah.
who was the lead scorer? Who got the most penalty minutes? What was the plus minus? On that. And being a hockey fan, it kind of not a huge jump into roller derby, just in terms of like penalties and scoring and team play.
And a similar pace to the game, I guess, as well.
Yeah, quick shifts. No one's on the track for too long.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Full contact sport, moving very quickly while hitting someone on the other team.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then there were a couple of incidents in sanctioned play where the announcers inadvertently had an impact on the result of a game.
Right.
And very famously, an announcer in a third place bout at a tournament, a regional tournament. So meaning the winner goes on to nationals, the loser goes home. Called live on the mic, the bout was over when the jam clock still had time on it in a nail-biter of a game.
Ooh.
And the fans rushed the track before the game was over. And the game was called off for safety reasons. And at the time, there were no rules in the rule book allowing a referee to restart a bout or restart a jam.
Right. Of course, that's since been added in 2009 or 10. I think it was added. Yeah.
Yeah, and probably just because of that. So they had to call off the game and say this team wins, this team loses, and it's all the announcer's fault. Kind of terrifying.
I'm
Keeps
trying
me
to
up
imagine the
at night.
hate mail that man got.
Wow.
And after that, the WFTDA basically said to the announcers, this can never happen again. What are you going to do to make sure this never happens
Yeah.
again?
How can you fix this problem?
So that's when the AFTDA got started.
Okay, so that was the driving force behind the organization itself.
Basically, we
Okay.
said as a group, collectively, we will take it onto ourselves to train people and have guarantees that people who are doing important bouts have the knowledge necessary about the game
Right.
to, you can't ever say this will never happen again, but
Right.
say we've done everything we can to make sure that this can never happen again.
Right. Yeah. Of course. Yeah. And I mean, yeah, it's pretty interesting when you think about it from that perspective. The game kind of affecting announcers becoming more serious about the sport, and then also announcers, affecting the sport to that degree. It's pretty spectacular. I mean, but it is amazing what an announcer can do for a sport. It cleans it up, it makes it intelligible to fans, and it just translates it in that very interesting way.
Oh, stop.
Aw,
But it's true. It's true.
we appreciate you.
Well, I can't skate, so I'm just glad I can be involved in some way.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, for you, was it was an immediate attraction to roller derby? Like when you saw the Beast of the East 6 years ago, this weekend, you just were bitten by that derby bug immediately?
Very, very quickly, yeah.
Okay.
I had gone to the Beast really on a whim, really for the kitsch factor. I like professional wrestling. I like the showmanship of it, and
Right.
that was really, and it's such a terrible thing to say about roller derby, but
Yeah.
But back then, we would have been happy to have you, like, as that guy. So.
yeah, but I didn't know, so I
Yeah.
bought my ticket and I showed up, and that was what got me in the door.
Right.
The hope of some spectacle.
Right.
And as a sports fan, I was drawn. It was not at all what I was expecting, but competitive and challenging and fast, and I wanted to watch. I wanted to watch more.
Mm-hmm.
And I had gone with a couple of female friends to watch, and they were like, I want to do this. And a couple of guy friends who were like, I can ref.
Right. And did they all end up getting involved, or some of them still involved?
They all ended up getting involved. I think the only ones there who are still involved are Patricide, who's a ref from Montreal,
Mm-hmm.
and Private Stacks, who's an announcer in Montreal.
Oh, okay. Great.
There's 4 of us in Montreal now, so.
Oh, nice.
And a few of them started skating, and then, a couple of them didn't realize they didn't like sports so much.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Derby, I could never play. The commitment it takes to keep competitive is, it's all-encompassing in some respects.
Of course, and I mean, that's the interesting thing about it. You see so many people come out who would just be so great at it or really love it, and it's not. People always think it's the roughness factor. People think it's going to be that people can't hack it out there on the track because it's so brutal or something. But it's the time commitment usually.
It
that
eats
gets
your
people.
life.
Yeah.
Yeah, my kid's sister tried out for Montreal, and she made it through a bunch of training, but was like, no, I have so much else going on in my life. I can't do 4 nights a week.
Right.
Yeah.
Real life sucks.
Yeah. The theme for today: real life sucks.
Real life sucks.
Yeah, and
I
then
want Derby life forever.
well, I figured I like to talk, so I could go be an announcer.
Mm-hmm.
And I showed up at a fundraiser after a Facebook event said they were looking for a new announcer to join the team, and I basically just showed up and said, "Me, you don't need to talk to anyone else."
Were there
Pushed all the other guys out of the way.
Did
Yeah.
you beat
No,
out
really.
like a crowd of people?
I got involved in a drinking contest with a couple of the skaters and embarrassed myself.
Excellent.
Lost horribly, and they said show up on Saturday.
Look at your moxie got you this job.
Ever since then, I've been losing the dignity.
Well, that's awesome. Well, thanks so much for calling in today and giving us a little idea of the beast this weekend and more of an idea of the history of Canadian, Eastern Canadian anyway, roller derby in general. Really nice to chat with you, and I'd love to have you on again sometime.
Anytime. And again, congratulations to the Slaughter Daughters of Rito, who won this afternoon.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
nail biter and so many power jams.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, talk to you soon, Sabat.
Bye.
Bye. All right, so as we mentioned earlier, we're talking about roller derby origin stories. So this is the 10th anniversary of modern flat track roller derby, and we're talking about personal origin stories, some league origin stories maybe, and just where sort of all the weirdness that is roller derby kind of individually comes from.
Weird. I don't know what you're talking about. None of us are weird.
So, as I mentioned at the top, Brooke is a rookie this season with Thunder Bay, and looking forward to her first bout soon. Harlot, you transferred to Thunder Bay from Ithaca roller
Right.
derby. What was your first sort of contact with roller
With
derby?
roller derby? I actually kind of just got drug along by a friend. But at every step, right? Like, so we were going to go to this game.
Okay.
So we went and watched the game, and she was in love with it immediately and was going to be a skater, and I didn't want to do that because I've never actually been a sports person, right? So I didn't think I would like it. But I did like roller skating, and at the time when this happened, it was maybe like February or something, and the Fresh Meet in Ithaca, you could join in the fall. Right,
Okay.
so we were very far away from her being actually able to try
And
to do anything.
What year was this at the time?
Oh, 2010.
2010. Okay.
It was my last year of grad school in Ithaca. And so because she couldn't actually get involved as a skater for like 6 months, there were, from where we lived, there were like 3 different old roller rinks that were about an hour away. And so we started going on Saturdays and just going to roller rinks and skating,
Okay.
which I went to because I thought I used to roller skate a lot as a little kid. And so I thought that would be fun. Right? So we did that, and then she bought her own skates, and I thought, well, I want my own skates. That'll be better. So I also bought skates. And then in the summer, she joined the rec league. They have a recreational league.
Okay.
Before you could start fresh meat training, you could do this, right? It started earlier in the year. And I didn't want to lose my roller skating partner, right? We weren't going to go skate at the roller rinks anymore, but she was going to go to this recreational league, so I went to that. So yeah.
And then, so you
then-
just started skating from there.
Yeah, and then the recreational league was really fun, so then we did fresh meet training after that ended.
Okay, yeah. So your first practice, you walk into a recreational league.
Yeah.
And were you kind of intrigued at that point?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I was at that. I still didn't think I was going to join, right? I thought I'll just do this for the summer. I'll join the recreational league.
Right.
It would be good for exercise,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I didn't really know what to expect. I guess we had gone to like a couple bouts,
Okay.
but I think I showed up in jeans. Like, it was
Serious business.
I had to put my I had to put my knee pads on over my jeans, and I was really hot and sweaty, and
Yeah.
Sounds incredibly uncomfortable.
yeah, I was. So I learned.
That's excellent. And for you, what was your first sort of contact with roller derby, or where did you first sort of come into?
I knew it was around in Thunder Bay. I just never got the contacts. And then one night I was at work. I used to work at a hotel downtown, and one of the cooks was in baking buns, and he had a friend hanging out with him, and he was throwing stuff at me from the mezzanine. So I was up those stairs and down the hallway and checked him into a wall within like 13 seconds. And this girl, who is, I guess she's been in and out for a while. Her name's Jeannie, and she went, "You need to join. Like, you need to join. You need to do this." And I'm like, done. And then,
We should get her back on recruitment.
Yeah, really.
Jeannie, I can Facebook message you right now. So, I've always wanted to be part of something athletic, and, full contact sports for women are few and far between, especially in Thunder Bay, Ontario.
Mm-hmm.
And I finally got out for fresh meet this year, and I have been bitten by the bug. I'm absolutely in love.
Mm-hmm. And did you have any sort of sports background before, or you just kind of felt like it might be something you enjoyed?
I like being active and being outside, but sports background, basically like cross-country running and that kind of stuff. Like, never anything serious.
Okay. And how about for you, Harlan? Sports background in any way, or?
No, I have. Not only did I not play any sports ever, my family is actually very against watching sports. So
Or like cancel ESPN. We just don't want that.
no, we never. No, we never grew up watching anything. So I used to dance.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's athletic, but not a sport.
Right.
Yeah, we noticed that when you're stretching. I'm like, oh, look at that graceful one over the corner.
So Jeannie told you that you'd be great for roller derby, and you just sought it out. Was recruitment? Did you have to wait a while?
I had to wait a while. I missed the fresh meet that year, and then timing didn't line up the next year.
Okay.
And so this was the first year I had a chance to go out, and I just went.
This was like 3 years ago.
This was like 3 years ago. This took a while. I
we
was
could have had you so long. So
I
much
know,
longer. Yeah.
right? I'm mad too. I was working midnights and didn't make much money, so it just didn't make sense.
Right.
I wasn't seeking it out that hard. I kept it on my radar, though, definitely.
Okay.
And it has definitely become much more prevalent in the community. More people definitely know about it, and it's fun.
Yeah, that's
It's just
great.
fun.
So when you finally walked into your first practice after years of build-up, what was it? Was it what you expected?
It was challenging. I knew I was going to hurt. I knew I was going to hit the floor lots. In fact, I hit the floor so much I named it Earl because he beat me. We were in a very, very intimate relationship, me and the floor. But it was more challenging than I thought it was going to be.
Okay.
But I'd never skated in my life, so I knew it was going to be different.
Okay. Yeah. So no ice skating, none of that.
I haven't
Didn't
been
you
ice
grow up
skating in
Thunder
years.
Bay?
I grew up in Thunder Bay. I haven't.
Yeah,
I haven't.
I
owned
thought everybody was born on skates here.
I haven't owned skates since I was a kid. And I was never very good at skating.
Okay.
Don't ask me how I managed the roller skates.
No. But regardless of that, you pretty much knew right away that it was for you.
It was for me. I'm like, I don't care if I suck at it. I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be a great time. And I get to hit other ladies on skates. This is
Well,
for
luckily
me.
you don't suck at it. So.
Yay. All right.
That's great. So it's been you've skated since September?
Since September. I think September, 8th?
Okay. Oh.
Hey, the date is ingrained in my memory, all right? There's an anniversary. I'll get a tattoo one day. First day on roller
Right,
skates.
10 years from then.
Yeah.
And you have been skating since, it was 2010 you started, or 2011?
I think 2010.
Okay.
Yeah. When I started in the fall of
Okay.
2010, so the end of the year.
Right. And what kind of changes have you noticed in your life since then?
Oh, from roller derby?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm in a lot better shape than I was.
Okay. Yeah.
So, yeah, there's that. I also, it sort of takes, I mean, it's very time consuming, right? So it has taken over from some other hobbies that I used to do. So I used to, I mean, and living in Thunder Bay now, it's not as relevant, but I used to do a lot of dancing, swing dancing in Ithaca, and also contra dancing, which I don't think there is any of that stuff here, so I couldn't be doing it anyway. But even when I was in Ithaca, like, I didn't have time for doing both of those things, right?
Okay.
So I had to kind of step back from going dancing ever.
And by the time what year did you move to Thunder Bay from Ithaca?
Right. So I skated in Ithaca. I went through fresh meet training in the fall, and then I was on the B team, the Blue Stockings, and I skated like half their season, maybe not even half, before I had to move. So we had a couple scrimmages and maybe 2 bouts or something, and then I had to leave, and I came to Thunder Bay, where I also miss most of the games all the time.
Such is the life of the wayward derby skater.
Yeah. We're just so happy to have you, though, Harlot. We're going to miss you.
Come to practices all the time.
Right. And so when you moved to Thunder Bay, was there any part of you that thought, maybe I'll move on to something else, or were you just right away plugged into derby?
Right. Yeah. No, I was, because I had not even skated for a full year at that point, right? I was still really in the first, like, I don't know, the honeymoon stage, I guess. It's like the first thing I did when I found out that I got this job was look up whether there's a roller derby team here.
Right.
Yeah. So I contacted Marty, I think was and she took forever to get back to me. And I was really worried about it. I was like, what if they don't let me skate? What if they don't want me?
They don't like me.
Maybe they have too many people.
Right.
No.
Okay. But it was not the case.
It was not the case.
So then you moved to Thunder Bay, and how did you find the integration happen? Like, what kind of carryovers were there from that league to this one? Had this sort of culture prepared you for it, or do you find sort of each derby league is a unique experience that you have to sort of delve into on its own?
I think that's a good question. I think there's definitely commonalities, right? Like, I feel like I like people in derby leagues, no matter what derby league you go to, right? You're gonna find people that you like, and you're gonna fit in, and it's gonna be good. There are definitely different ways that people play, and that takes some adjustment, right? So I feel like I've been here for a while, and I'm good at working with you guys, right? And it's going to be different when I go to San Diego because they have a different style, right? And I'll have to adjust to that.
Yeah.
So at first, so as I don't think we mentioned this, but I also spent last summer skating in San Diego, and at first I found it a little challenging to feel like I was being effective, right? I wasn't. I didn't feel like I was as effective skating with them as I had been the week before skating with you guys, right? So there's a little bit of adjustment there.
Okay.
Got to find your place.
Yeah, well, you just have to learn how everybody works and who does what. And,
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And even on the track, I mean, there's been so many changes even over the last couple months.
Yeah.
That, it's
true.
hard to, sometimes you miss a practice and you show up and you're like, we're doing what?
Yeah,
now?
that's true.
Well, yeah, I was gone for a week, and suddenly the WIFTA minimum skills requirements changed. I'm like, what? What happened? Where? What? Huh?
It's 27 now.
Yeah. What?
All right. Well, actually, we have someone on the line who knows quite a bit about the mass amounts of changes that have happened on the track over the years. We have on the line Elle Bose from Atlanta Roller Girls. She's been skating since 2005 with a small break in there. Hi, Elle, and welcome to Derbyline.
Hi, how are you guys?
Doing great. How about you?
Good. Can you guys see me?
Yes, we can. We got a monitor here in the studio, so. So we're here with Harlot Pimpernel, and this is Brooke Horpick and Elle Bose. Welcome. You returned to Derby this year after a retirement of approximately how many years?
3 years.
Okay. And you'd been skating previous to that from 2005 to 2009, is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, I started in Atlanta when the whole league started. I think that they had their first recruitment meeting sometime in November of 2004. Okay. And then I went to my first practice with them in February of 2005.
Okay, great. And what did roller derby or Atlanta Roller Girls, what did it look like at that time? Can you paint a little picture of it?
It was a lot of tattoos and a lot of bad attitudes. Not like terrible attitudes, but like sassy gals.
Yeah,
tattoos.
Of course.
We showed up to practice wearing our jeans. We were totally just learning how to roller skate. I remember showing up, and there was a group of about 8 or 9 women who had already kind of figured out how to roller skate, and they were, they were able to do pace lines, and I was still kind of like, I don't know how to do any of this, and I didn't know how to stop, and it was really just embarrassing. But I figured out how to stop, and I got into a pace line, and the rest, I guess, is history.
Okay. And had you had any kind of sports background previous to that, or it was the draw of the badass women?
I had very little sporting experience. I did grow up dancing. I like that we have something in common. But it was the way that it started. I used to work at this bar called the Brew House, and one of my friends named Andrea, she worked there, and she came up to me one night and was like, Barbara, do you know how to roller skate? And I was like, no. And she said, well, do you want to join a roller derby league? And I immediately was like, yeah, I do. I really do. I want to do this. I had no idea that there was like a resurgence. I didn't know what it was into. I just was like, yeah, dog, let's do it.
That's great. And when you showed up for the sort of session skating first practices, were you sort of bitten by the derby bug right away? Did it take a while for you to realize it was something happening at all? Like, how was it sort of progressed into your life?
We didn't really have derby at that point in 2005. We just knew that we were supposed to learn how to roller skate and learn how to fall correctly. Eventually, we would learn how to hit without like getting all handsy and grabby and stuff. I think what I fell in love with immediately was the activity of roller skating itself. I remember the day that I learned how to cross over, and I just remember being like, this is a whole new world of motion that I've never experienced before, and I just really enjoy the way the floor feels under you and like the wind, coming across your face. And so I think, and plus, like, the women that I was hanging out with, they were all total badasses, and they were so awesome, and they were so cool, and I loved them. So it was really, it was a combination of things. And I remember the first time we scrimmaged, it was, I mean, I can't even describe it. It was so disorganized, and, like, nobody knew what really we were doing. We just kind of like got a piece of paper, I think from the Minnesota Roller Girls, that said that like you should line up in 2 lines with like staggered teams.
Actually, I pulled up the.
I found showing me that actually.
I found the 2006 rule set, so the sort of official first rule set from WFTDA. I found that online a while back, and I was like, "Oh, we're doing a Derby Origins episode. This is going to be hilarious!" Like, I thought it would just be full of like the most ridiculous things. The thing I was actually surprised about, though, is other than the inverted triangle thing, which they actually prescribe in the rule set, and the thing about 3 20-minute periods instead of 2 30s. It actually wasn't that different. I mean, it wasn't as long. It was 9 pages. And, now the current rule set is, I think, 65.
It's a little intimidating.
It wasn't as hilarious as I thought it was going to be, actually, which kind of shows me, I think a lot of the changes kind of taken place outside of the actual prescribed rules, right? Like, things have really grown up sort of mentally for roller derby. It hasn't really been... I mean, obviously the rules have changed a lot in terms of no minors and stuff, but I mean, in terms of the overall rule set, it's not a completely different game than it was in 2006.
Right. I mean, it's still that, like, the jammer needs to get through the pack and laugh and then pass other people.
Right. And 2.2.2, player with the, team with the most points at the end of the game wins. Like, that will always be true. Yeah. And honestly, I mean, I tried to pick out sort of segments that I could, like, read and everyone would laugh at, but it really wasn't there. I mean, we kind of knew, I guess, what we were on to back then, regardless of how, if we, I think if people could see it today, it wouldn't have been what they expected. But how has the sort of growing up of roller derby been over the last, I guess, since 2005? That's been 8 years that you've been skating. Like,
that is a loaded question. I don't even
answer it as delicately or as straightforwardly as you prefer.
Yeah, because I was in the middle of all of the changes from 2005 to 2009, it didn't seem like a huge change when it was happening. Right. I'm trying to think of like a major thing that I guess, yeah, there wasn't anything that was just like, I don't know, I don't understand this. There was never a point where that happened. The thing that's happening now is that I missed all of the changes between 2009 and 2013.
Right.
And so in 2012, in November, when I decided to come out of retirement and I got my first scrimmage back, and people are doing these scrum starts, which I was an announcer for those 3 years that I was gone, so I saw the evolution of it. But being in the middle of a scrum start when you're like, I have no idea how this happened or how we got here, it's really scary. I mean, it was terrifying, and I was just like frozen, and I was that like knock-kneed, deer in the headlights kid again. Today, as a matter of fact, I was in a scrum start for the first time where I was like, I know exactly what I'm supposed to do, and I'm doing it, and I'm doing it right. Like, today was the first time that happened. So.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I mean, I think the first time most people probably saw that happen, they were kind of like, I mean, I guess maybe if you'd seen some of the sort of stuff that was happening where no one was moving at all for a while, I think people were very suspicious of scrum starts because they thought that that's what was trying to happen, and they couldn't see that, it was a different style of play that people were kind of trying to develop kind of thing. So until this rule set, I think scrum starts were kind of seen as like, delays of game and that kind of thing, but it's obviously becoming a very integral part of the sport, if not really the sport itself. It's changed so much in that direction. I guess in terms of, I mean, you've obviously seen, people become so much more athletic about the sport. When you left in 2009, that was obviously underway. When you came back in 2012, it must have been even a huge difference. I mean, you'd seen it happen as an announcer, but what was it like?
Yeah, absolutely. There are people that are on my team now who had been on my team for years. Like, there's a handful of people that I've skated with since the very, very beginning, and watching their development has just been sort of gratifying and sort of scary, because I know that I have to skate against them, and it's kind of painful. But just watching the difference. And I'm going to take Queen Luz Tifa, for example. She is just one of the best blockers in the business. And I remember when she started, like, she's always been a good blocker and a good skater. And then, like, I go away for 3 years, and then I get back to practice, and I see that not only is she this, like, extremely strong blocker, extremely smart skater, but now she's like light on her feet like she never has been before. And so no matter how good you are, there's always that bar that can get raised. Like, soon she's gonna fly. So
right. Exactly. And I mean, I feel like a lot of skaters almost sort of we're talking about derby origins today, and sort of the origins of where people come from, and when you kind of made that switch over to the skater that you are now. But I feel like a lot of skaters have sort of multiple progressions of that, as you were kind of saying. Like, she's always been good. Maybe 5 years ago she would have defined her origin story as one thing, and now maybe it's when she kind of learned to be light on her feet. So it's kind of like a continual sort of renewal kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess you probably, seeing the sport from an announcer's eyes, you probably went through kind of a new thing. I mean, you had to sort of re-enter the league on a different level in 2009. Is that kind of the way that things went there?
I re-entered, like, now.
So you stopped skating in 2009 and kind of came on as an announcer. Was it difficult to sort of make that transition and sort of begin a new derby life as an announcer? We were just talking, for instance, to Single Malt Scott, and he's saying his league very much, he's a part of the league, that kind of thing. Was it difficult to be on the announcer side of things for those couple of years, or was it business as usual?
It was really, really hard, actually, for me. I retired in 2009, and for that first year that I was retired, I only was a fill-in announcer. Mm-hmm. So I was still just like a retired skater who happened to be really good on a mic. So then when I became an official announcer, like, I'm still close friends with these people that I skated with, But it's all different. Our league went through a shakeup where they just put everybody in a bag, shook it up, and then redrew teams.
Oh, wow. Was this at the same time in 2009?
Different reasons. What was that?
Oh, was this at the same time in 2009?
This was, I want to say 2010.
Okay.
I could be wrong.
During
I
that
don't
time, okay.
remember, but it was right around there. So even my old team wasn't my old team anymore. And so it was this really weird kind of like, I don't know actually where I belong in all of this. And then I came on as an official announcer, and Sweet Willie Teabag, who is my co-announcer, like we've gotten to be really close friends, which is great because he's an amazing announcer. And I've kind of gotten to be friends with that whole announcer crew kind of world, which is great. And I was still friends with people, but it was a little bit different. And it was really hard for me at first, but then I kind of, it was just like, I'm an awesome announcer and I have really great friends, so why am I making this harder on myself?
Right, of course, yeah. There's that moment of letting go where you're just like, you know.
That's great. Exactly what happened.
And then your decision to return to skating, where did that sort of root in or come from?
So many things. We started a recreational league here in Atlanta, and I joined the rec league, and I was like, oh, this is really fun. And then I quit. It's kind of personal. I quit drinking, and I found out that I had all of this time and energy on my hands, and I was like, I have the Saturday and Sunday mornings back. I don't have hangovers anymore.
Yeah.
I think I should go skate again.
Yeah, that's great.
Congratulations. There you go.
Which is actually kind of similar to the way I kind of see roller derby growing up. You know, you're talking about like people back in the day, it was really more about the spectacle, and you know that's something we've kind of heard from Single Malt Scott earlier too. It's like it was really about the spectacle and just kind of about hanging out and beers after practice, maybe sometimes before back in the day. I don't know. I don't recommend that. No, but you know, it was really about just kind of the party, and people didn't know. I mean, there was no idea, there was no way to tell where it was going, and you know, that shift kind of happens where suddenly your life is roller derby, and just like when you quit drinking, you have a lot of time to just think about roller derby, and you've kind of left a lot of the former things behind, and kind of moved on to this new thing where you're like, well, I guess I'll just do roller derby all the time and learn how to be really light on my feet, like Lucy Tifa or whatever. So it's kind of always progressing in that strange way. What were some of the biggest challenges about returning to skating after 3 years of watching it all change so rapidly and shake up and all that stuff?
The biggest thing that has, this is going to sound really weird, overestimating myself. And I don't mean overestimating myself in the fact that, like, I'm some, you know, totally tough, awesome skater and I don't need to practice, like that kind of thing. I mean overestimating myself in the sense that, you know, in those 3 years that I retired, like, I was taking some dance classes, doing some yoga, doing some rec league. You know, I'm in good shape for a civilian. Going from that into, you know, 4 3-hour practices a week, plus cross training, plus, you know, still keeping up with my job, my boyfriend, you know, still doing all of this stuff. I got injured quite a bit just from trying to do too much at once.
Right.
And so I'm just getting over a knee injury. My physical therapist was like, girl, you have got to slow down. Like, go to practice, do your best at practice, and the next day, rest, and then go to practice again the next day. So I'm having to kind of take a step back from all of this working out. Like, there was a point where I was working out 6 days a week hardcore. And you can't really go from like, oh, I'm kind of in shape to working out 6 days a week hardcore. So that was kind of the biggest thing. And right now, today, I was thinking about doing a league practice, then doing a team practice. And I was like, maybe I don't need to skate for 5 hours today. And
right.
Probably a good decision.
Of course. And yeah, I loved your article, the expectation versus reality article that you wrote for the Atlanta Roller Girls. That was just great and made me lol. And yeah, I mean, it's totally true for a lot of skaters. You know, it's especially just seeing it out there and so many people that want to be a part of it so much that I think that they can will themselves to that place where they, you know, really want to be, or like for someone coming in from the outside, obviously you'd been there before and had contacts in the league, so it wasn't like you had to prove yourself in that way, but sometimes you have to prove yourself, even to the standards that you've created for yourself.
Oh, girl, I still got to prove myself.
I mean, I think that's true for so many roller derby players, and I think that's one of the things that keeps it moving forward and just being weird like it is.
Yeah, that's what I love about it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thanks so much for calling in. It was a real pleasure to have you on the show, and yeah, hopefully we talk to you again sometime.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. You guys are awesome. Internet hug. Yay!
Yay!
Bye, guys.
All right. Bye now.
Bye.
Awesome. So for you guys, have you ever had sort of similar circumstances where maybe you think about something before practice and you're like, yeah, I'm going to be awesome at that. And then you show up and it's just not the reality that you thought it would be? Anything you would like to share that's like that?
Well, you see, I'm a rookie. I have that every single practice.
Right.
But I'm still learning.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I realize you guys are still learning. It's an evolving sport. It's athleticism, and you're always going to be learning. But for me, I'm still very much on that first curve.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still finding my place. I'm still, what exactly are my skills? Where am I going to fit? And so I'm finding that, every single practice, I'm like, I'm going to be awesome at nope.
But there must have been moments, too, where she was talking about those crossovers clicking in, right? There must have been some of those moments as well.
First crossover in the basement of Eaton's, I was, I think I had to stop and went, did you guys see that? Did it? First backwards skating actually was my big one.
Yeah.
My first transition to backwards. I believe there was a high five line. I was very pumped about it.
And how about for you?
Like what?
Either thing's not living up to reality, or clicking in, or both,
Or
together at
both
once.
together.
Everything.
Yeah, well, yeah. Things don't live up to your reality all the time. I would say that I don't, maybe this is going to sound bad, but I don't really think ahead of time before practice.
Okay.
A lot. So it's not like I'm like, practice is going to be awesome today, and then it's not.
Mm-hmm.
It's more like you just go to practice and see what happens. But on individual drills, sometimes it's like, I could do that, and then you get out there and it's like, oh, no.
No, I need to work on that.
Yeah. Like
Right.
whoever is demonstrates, and then you're like, yeah, I could do that. No.
Yeah.
The boxcar, for example. Or I'm thinking in particular, we worked a lot last summer on this this particular drill where you had to sort of push someone out, and then it was a negative reinforcement. So like you were in a pace line and you push someone out, and then the next person would hit you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're punishing the person who hit your teammate, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so you think, yeah, I can do that, and then I just couldn't. I don't know. It took a long time to get it.
Right. Yeah.
And I don't. Yeah. But
And it just took a while for that one thing to just kind of
just something. I mean, they were saying all the things to do
Right.
with your feet or whatever, and I understood what they were telling me, but my feet wouldn't do it.
Yeah, I guess I find that's true so often
Yeah.
with things, and sometimes people just like they'll be saying the same thing over and over again, which is
Yeah.
fine because repetition makes you
Right.
learn things and all that, but they'll just kind of rephrase it and be like, which is why I think it's so good to get. And in roller derby, it's
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
one of the best things about it is you can be coached from so many different angles because the sport is growing all the time.
Yeah.
People are learning, and
I just kind of sneaky shadow people. You, for instance, I do all the time. I'll just start following you. I'm like, oh, Boxy does it this way. I can.
Right.
No, it's not working for me. But I'm going to keep this in mind.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it's like watching footage and stuff. You always kind of pick out those moves, and you maybe take them and you take them to practice. And let's say I do that, and then I'm trying to tell people to do it. I'm picturing somebody amazing in my head.
Yeah. And you're trying to translate that into words, and it's
You're like,
not
I
working.
think my body does that like this. Yeah.
I have no idea. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that definitely happens to me all the time. I guess there's been some chat on the board. We're hearing in our ears that there's been a bit of chatter about bad derby spaces and how that kind of translates to the development of derby. So here in Thunder Bay, the practice space has traditionally been the basement of the Eaton's department store, which has things like pillars and a stage and
Two stages
shared with the orchestra. It's practically a 3-ring circus, really.
How is that?
It's very slippery.
How is that hindered or aided or sort of affected your sort of rise to derbydom? Or
Well,
I mean,
hard for you to say because you've never had another
Well,
practice
the
space.
thing is, for me, learning down there has made me both cautious and yet slightly fearless because I'm like, I learned to skate with the expectation of there's a pillar 2 inches from the apex of our track. Okay, whatever. So I'm used to hitting in that space, and now with our new space, it's bizarre being able to go all out and
Yeah.
and be able to see all the play without craning necks around pillars.
Yep.
There you go.
And I guess the bunker in Toronto has pillars too. I'm not sure if they have the pillars at the inside of each corner.
Exactly.
But
There.
that's
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
where the World Cup was held in 2011, was it? Yeah. So it was a space. It was at least good enough for the World Cup. I don't think they're going to be holding any World Cups at Eaton's.
No, the floor is
anytime soon,
terrifying, and I've got there's one pillar, and it's got like the David statue in electrical
Right.
tape. I wind up hugging that pillar far too frequently.
Yeah, it definitely affects you. I've noticed that I got a lot better at positional blocking since playing with Thunder Bay,
Yeah.
which I mean, I really had not skated for that long before I got here, so I got better at everything since
Right.
skating with you guys. But we definitely we have to rely on positional blocking because it is scary to hit people very hard, and we often do drills where you say don't hit or
Go
don't
easy.
go easy, right?
Yeah.
It's rare. It's
70%.
rare. It's rare to be in there and to actually do a hit at your full strength.
Right.
And so
And I mean, I guess as you improve at things like positional blocking, do you feel like it has an effect on your real life? And I guess what I'm asking is, do you feel like as you get better at derby, your real life kind of recedes to the background?
My real life is already receding, and I'm
Okay.
just a rookie. I haven't even played a real game yet. Like, real life is out the window. I don't go out and drink as much. I don't know. I don't have any hobbies. It's derby.
right, it definitely took over a lot of my free time, but I still feel like my real life is
It's present, yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Right. I mean,
Maybe I
Maybe
never
it's-
had a real life.
maybe it depends on how committed you are to whatever your career is, right? And so yeah,
So you
I'm
have
not willing to allow roller derby to take over.
You have
my
a real
job.
career.
Sitting
I've
down.
Right.
never had one of those. I worked at a hotel, and right now I work for a healthcare company, and I'm on call, so I just I sit in my basement and schedule medical appointments.
Wait for the next practice.
Yeah, wait for the next practice. I'm like, oh, guys, I'm sitting at home. I want to be practicing with you. Why aren't you here with me?
Right.
That's my real life. It's
Right, yeah. So do you feel like there was, like, do you feel like you remember the moment that things have started to change for you? Like when you showed up for the first practice, you were in love with derby, but you obviously had no way of knowing the
I had
way it
no
would take over.
expectation of where I'd be or if I'd be a good fit for it. Probably my first scrimmage practice is when it sank in. I'm like, I can do this, and it's going to be challenging. There's a lot going on, but I love this. It's an environment. It's a world. You just get into it.
Yeah. And was it sort of a slow progression to kind of where it is now, or it was like full tilt from the beginning?
Full tilt from the beginning. I think I was very gung ho about this. This is happening.
And I knew that you were into derby from your first, but you were committed from the beginning, because earlier we were talking about how time commitment, can be such a big factor on whether people even are able to play or not. It was from the beginning you were just willing to commit the time and willing to.
I'm like, I could do this 5 days a week. I'm in. Let's go.
And were there moments for you, Harlot, where maybe you doubted the time commitment, or you doubted whether you were able to maybe be able to keep it up?
No, I don't think so. There are definitely moments where I thought maybe this isn't the best idea, right? You're spending all your time doing this, but I wanted to, basically. Like, you can allow your studies and your work to take up all of your time, right? And there are people that do that, right? So so I'm a mathematician, right? Yes, that should be. That's part of what I'm saying, is that, like, there are people who spend all of their time doing research, right? And I didn't ever really want that to be my life. And so, like, you have to make some boundaries and set some time aside for doing other things. And I wanted to fill that time with roller derby, right? And so
it seems like you've kind of done that on both sides. You've kind of sought out sort of that balance between,
Yeah, I
you know,
think so.
really being able to drive into your work and really being able to commit to roller derby. To the
Right.
point.
And I'm never going to be like the best roller derby player because I don't think I'm willing to commit that much time. But I am willing to commit the amount of time that I need to play here,
Okay.
right, with our league.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I guess finances are always also an issue. You know, it's,
Yes.
especially if you are somebody who's kind of has that drive. You know, it's very tempting always to sort of get the new skate that's cool, or you know, upgrade to that custom package, or even aside from gear, I mean, just the monthly dues every month. Any issues you want to share there?
Oh, being fresh meat. There's so many things I want, but I'm like, oh, I just spent $500 for all this gear.
Yeah.
I can't get that new Pivot Star hoodie. I need a new backpack. I need new elbow pads. I started in September. My elbow pads are falling apart. How does that happen? And it's just it's terrible. I'm gonna have to spend $40 soon on new elbow pads. I have to buy jerseys. I don't have a jersey yet.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, maybe for someone who has a work derby balance,
Yeah.
this miraculous work derby balance, that's the first I've ever heard of it.
What is this mythical thing?
Okay, now
It's maybe not the worst thing for you.
Mythical.
in terms of finances, yeah, I guess I've just been lucky that that hasn't actually been an issue for me.
Yeah.
So, but it is very expensive. So.
Indeed it is. Indeed it is. Well, that's great. So I guess we're pretty close to the end here. So I guess in closing, I'd just ask if your life is even recognizable from the point of origin, wherever you define that for yourself in terms of derby. I mean, you have a pretty short road, so maybe it's that
I'm
first
still
practice.
in my point of origin, I think. I'm
Okay.
still developing. I mean, really. I feel more confident just in real life, in anything. But I don't know. I'm still looking for that balance. I don't think it's going to happen.
Okay. And how about for you, Harlan?
Yeah, it's different. I play a sport now. That's so weird. Like, I kind of never thought I would do that, and especially such an aggressive one. And I got a lot of surprise from my family, like friends from before I started roller derby. That, like, you're doing what?
Yeah. Did you get a lot of support as well? I mean, I know your
Yeah.
family wasn't into sports.
Oh yeah, they're not, but they also don't live close enough that they are expected to go to. They're into family things, so they would go watch me play if they could. But
Right. So it was kind of like, we don't have to go, right? Oh, okay, that's cool.
Go for it.
no, they would like to go see it. Yeah, no, I got a lot of support.
Okay.
Yeah, from
And I mean, in terms of when you started to now, I mean, you've obviously had struggles trying to sort of maintain, you know, your work in derby, but is your life pretty much like similar to the way it was? You don't feel like there's been a lot of, you know, strain that's affected your life to the point where it's...
at different times it gets more stressful than others, but I think actually that in the past couple of years since I started roller derby, my work life has actually been very stressful because of graduating and looking for jobs. So I'm kind of constantly on the job market, and that's a really stressful thing, and roller derby has helped a lot with that.
Okay.
So having this support network and having this total social group that's completely removed from the research and academic side,
Right.
It's a good outlet.
Yeah, which surprisingly is an aspect we haven't even really touched on tonight, which is that, you know, roller derby is such an important outlet for so many people. I mean, that's, you know, when you read the articles in the newspaper, that's kind of the go-to thing that the people always say. You know, they're like, it's an outlet for these people.
Yeah.
Librarian by day, roller derby player by night.
It's this motley crew of miscreants and misfits, and it's great to find some place you absolutely fit in.
Yeah.
And I think almost anybody can fit in here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I think that's why so many people are willing to make it their lives, of course. You know,
Yeah.
so.
Man, can I get a job roller derby? Is that
You
an
can.
option? I don't think it's
It's
going to pay very well.
called starting a skate shop.
Oh, tush, I get it now.
There you go. Yeah. So any closing comments here for the second episode of Derbyline?
I don't know.
This has been really fun.
It has been
Everybody
fun.
should call in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, we didn't even get to the local people, did we? I don't know. Go L's.
Oh, go Grizzlies.
We got a home team mismatch here going on.
I'm actually
Harlot's out of here, so her
I'm some kind of traitor. I'm wearing red. Pretty sure Cuddles is going to beat me up later.
All right, so we'll go ahead and wrap up here. So again, you're listening to Derbyline on camptv.ca. We're live every Sunday night here from the Camp TV studio, and you're welcome to call in if you want to get in touch with us about an interview. You can drop us a line on our Facebook page, Derbyline Radio, facebook.com/Derbyline Radio, or at Twitter, also twitter.com/Derbyline Radio. And you can give us a call next week if you'd like. The number is 807-473-3800. We'd be more than happy to hear from you, and we'll be announcing topics week by week, so keep in touch with us. Thanks again for listening, and my name is Boxcar Bethy. I'm here with Brooke Horpick and Harlot Pimpernel. Thanks very much. Good night, everybody.
Night.
Confederation College Radio.
Rows of houses, all bearing